Hi, I'm Debbie Pokornik. Welcome to day 5 of the Mother's Day Marathon. Today, our video is on bullying, a hot and timeless topic, I have to say, that so many people don't know how to deal with effectively. In fact, one of the biggest problems with bullying right now is that people are living in fear of it, and as a result, are calling all kinds of peer problems bullying. And so when that happens, they're overreacting to them, they're overprotecting, and it's causing all kinds of challenges for them and their kids. So today I want to talk about developing a healthy response to bullying as a parent, but also as a person who is living in a society where bully type behavior really is happening all the time. I mean, it's all around us. We live in a punishment modeled society. And so bullying is a very common thing. And so I want you to understand that this is not something that's reserved for kids. This is something that we deal with in all of our lives all of the time. And so to me, it makes it really important that you understand what's going on and have a healthy way to deal with it when it somehow appears in your life. So in the Mother's Day online gift package, you will find an ebook that is all about this particular topic. And so if you haven't gone and got that, you really want to do that as soon as you can because it's only up until the end of May. And you will find that at Empowering Energy, that's 3 letters, NRG.com, and there's a heart on the right hand side if you're on computer, and it will say Mother's Day gift, and you can click on it, sign up, and you will have access to all the support material from all of the videos that we covered this week. So there's a lot of great resources there, and you don't have to download them all or take them all. Just take the ones that really call to you or read through them, take a peek at them. But there's cheat sheets, there's infographics, there's some of my family booster shot cards, there's different games, there's ebooks, there's videos, there's audios. There's a lot of selection there depending on what your favorite learning style is. Okay? All of the topics that I covered this week are an important part of the foundational pieces to what we're talking about today. Okay, so far this week we've talked about discipline and punishment and the difference between the two. We've talked about yelling at your kids in order to get them to listen and what you can do instead. We've talked about how to help kids learn to work out their disagreements and actually use that to their advantage, knowing that you have their back, right, while they're learning it. And even we talked about resiliency and why it's really important that every one of us stay firmly connected to our resiliency, to our knowledge that we can handle whatever life throws our way. And so that's what the last 4 sessions were about. And so I want to just give you a little bit about why those are important so you can pick out the pieces if you haven't already, okay? When you choose punishment over discipline, you are telling your child that when they are afraid of a consequence or the person dealing out the consequence, that they should listen to them. Now, can you see how this is setting them up to be either a target or a bully? Because it really is focusing on, this is bothering me, it really is focusing on telling them that if you're afraid of somebody, if somebody is threatening you, you should listen. That's the message. And so that doesn't work in our favor. Yelling at your child is a form of punishment that relies on things like intimidation. Power to hurt, that someone has this power over you to hurt you in some way, and fear. These are all necessary ingredients for bullying as well. So obviously then yelling is setting your kids up to possibly be bullied. Allowing your kids to tattle overreacting when they come to you and they're tattling on someone, and even working out their disagreements for them, going there, dealing with it, disciplining the other child or punishing the other child or whatever. All of those things inadvertently send a message to your child that they're breakable, that they're incapable, even that they're falsely protected. And by that I mean that it gives them a sense that you will look out for them, you will protect them. But we all know that other people aren't going to be there all the time. As much as we'd like them to be, well, probably not if you're a child, but as much as we might like them to be there, they're not always going to be able to be there for you. So what happens when they're not? What do you do then? Or what happens when they have a teacher and they go to that teacher and they tell that teacher what's going on, and the teacher says, so work it out. And now they're suddenly not protected. So there is that false sense of security, and also that understanding that you really can't protect me the way you're suggesting that you can. And then finally, slinging goo at a person's connection with their natural resiliency, making them feel like they are a victim, perhaps, that they do have things to fear. It starts to make them afraid, and it sets them up to fall into that role of victim. It becomes much more believable. If you're fully connected to your resiliency, you don't believe you could ever be a victim, because it's just not part of who you are. You can handle whatever comes up. You're not a victim of anything. Okay? So if you can pay attention to the messages that were in those videos, and if you can put them into action and into practice in your life, then know that you are setting the foundation right now to raise a child who can be bully proof. All right? Because all of those pieces are building towards this strong, confident person that's able to stand in their power. So if you were already doing those things, kudos, great job, keep it up. And if you weren't, which is okay too, then start to think about it. Start to notice the things that you're doing. And as I said, be your number one fan, pat yourself on the back for every little thing that you notice. Because awakening is a process. It takes time. It's a heck of a lot of work. And it keeps you thinking, right? Because you have to constantly be noticing things that you would normally kind of do on autopilot. I often like to say parenting is not a job for being on autopilot, because you can miss out on a lot of opportunities. You can mess a lot of things up by doing things that way. So I think that I was pretty clear in video number 3, which was on sibling rivalry and kids not getting along, that these situations are actually an important opportunity to teach our kids how to work out disagreements and to learn how to build strong relationships. So they're not a bad thing when it's just kids learning. That's the way things are. So the definition that I use for bullying is basically that bullying always involves a perceived power imbalance. Someone in the relationship is stronger, smarter, bigger, has authority over, and the person who's being bullied feels threatened. Like they believe that the other person will actually follow through on their threat. Can you feel how that ties into the yelling part or the punishment part, as opposed to discipline? Okay. And so they believe there's no way out. They have to do what the bully is telling them to do. And that's where we would label it and call it bullying. It has a potential to escalate into some really ugly situations, which we all know, we've heard, right? Some of us have been victim to it. We've all probably been bullied or been a bully at some point in our lives. And a lot of us have been on both sides of the equation, including yours truly. I hate that I could ever be considered a bully, and yet I know that I was. In my teenage years, I can remember being a bully. So when your child comes to you and tells you that they are being bullied, or you figure out that whatever's going on is in fact bullying, here's something I really want you to know and to hold tight to, is that in that moment, when they come to you, when they tell you what's going on, they are already starting to take back their power. Right? Because when you're afraid of the bully, when you're afraid that telling your parent what's going on is something the bully told you not to do, and you take back your power and say, you know what, I'm doing it anyway. I need to talk to mom about this, or I need to tell dad what's going on. You're starting to take back your power. So this is a moment to actually celebrate. Unfortunately, what often happens is rather than helping them to continue on this path of empowerment and taking back their power and being able to stand up for themselves and perhaps changing the whole trajectory of their life, we often overreact. We go into protective mode. We do all these well-meaning things, and we cause all kinds of extra problems. So what do you do instead? Well, you take a deep breath. You calm yourself down so that you can be at your smartest, right? Because when you are upset, when you're in that protective mother bear mode, the blood is being diverted to your muscles to make you the strongest and fastest and, most capable person in the room physically, but not the smartest. So calm yourself down, listen to them, and let them know you are there for them. In the ebook that you can get off of my website at empoweringenergy.com, I share what can happen when a parent reacts the way so many parents do. And I talk about a mom who, if you've just found out that your child, your daughter, is being picked on by two of the other girls at school, maybe a grade up, maybe not, doesn't matter, but two of the girls. And so, you overreact. Maybe you phone those moms. Maybe you don't get satisfaction phoning those moms. So maybe you then phone the school, and the school ends up completely reacting because they have to. If they have a policy in place and it's a zero tolerance policy, away they go and they put that in place. And those zero tolerance policies are not very helpful because they're black and white, and so many issues are not black and white. And so they stop us from seeing the gray for what it is and to actually looking at things with fresh eyes in every situation. So you end up getting kids that will get suspended or expelled or penalized in some way, where if they were really thinking about it, that wouldn't happen. Just to show you what I mean, if you, let's say we're driving a person, that you have someone beside you in the car and that person is dying, all right? So you are driving, speeding to get to the hospital, and a cop pulls you over and gives you a ticket rather than helping you get that person to the hospital right away. That cop is using zero thinking. It's a black and white thing. You're speeding, you get a ticket. That's zero thinking. Because in that situation, a cop who is sworn to serve and protect should right away jump into, okay, let's get this person to the hospital as fast as possible. You're not speeding because you're trying to break a rule. You are speeding to save someone's life. So hopefully that clarifies it for you. And I apologize to any people who are cops who are listening, who are going, why are you picking on us? I use that example because most people can understand it. So in the ebook, I mentioned that as a result of this situation, as a result of you calling and taking over, your child has probably internalized a message that she is in fact weak. It's like a victim mentality, that she does need protection. This is further compounded by the fact that there's probably adults at the school now that are also protecting her, that are also watching her and making sure she's looked after, because they have to. They've got this zero tolerance policy in place. And plus, you have told them in no uncertain terms, they better protect your child, right? So she's being coddled. She's being watched over too much. Things are probably way worse with those two girls, because now she has severed any chance of being friends with them. If they're the popular girls, then probably there's a whole bunch of other kids that are now shunning her. And on top of it all, the bullies in training, which are all those kids that are at an age now where they're testing out their own power. They're setting up their own boundaries. They're trying to figure out what kinds of things they do or how they say things or whatever, and how it affects other people, the kinds of responses that they get from other people. That's a natural part of being in that age, right? It's part of our learning how to be humans and how to interact and how to build relationships. And so some of them aren't really bullies, but they are what I call bullies in training or bullies in waiting, in that they could go that route if they all of a sudden find themselves in a position where there's somebody who's just a perfect target, and they know they can get a rise out of that person just by saying certain things. All right. The other thing, and this is a big problem too, is she will probably, your daughter, become hypersensitive to normal peer disagreements. So she might have a little tussle with somebody where they disagree with her. That's my pencil. No, it's not. It's my pencil. No, it's not. It's mine. And one takes it. And the next thing you know, she's going to the teacher to say, they're picking on me. And they're not. It's just a normal disagreement, but she's hypersensitive to it, so she starts taking everything personally. And this is all just because you protected her. You overreacted. You thought you were helping. So, unfortunately, none of us are doing this because we're bad people, because we're mean, because we truly think our child is a victim or not able to take care of herself. It's because we feel like we need to take action and we don't necessarily know how to. This is what we've been taught to do. And when you live in a punishment society, protection is a very real thing. So what do you do instead? Well, I talk about this in the ebook, so I'm not going to go into it in a lot of detail right now, but I want to go over it in case you don't read the book. Maybe you don't like to read, or maybe you haven't picked up the book, or you're seeing this video later and you just want to know. So here's what you do instead. The first thing, listen. Just truly listen. If you know how to use empathic listening, that's sort of my favorite when it comes to a situation where somebody has been hurt or they're feeling wronged. They really need you to listen, because what you're doing there is you're trying to empathize with them. So you might say something like, "Oh, that sounds pretty frustrating. I can understand why you'd feel that way." So you're connecting with them by searching for what they're feeling. And it's not about getting what they're feeling right, it's about empathizing with them. So you empathize by putting yourself in someone else's shoes, right? But understand that their shoes are 15 years old. They're not 50 years old. So that's probably not a good example, because on video it probably sounds the same. So let's say they're 12 years old, not 30 years old. Okay? So put yourself in their shoes. Yikes, that sounds scary. I think I would have been terrified. Now, your child might say, well, no, I wasn't scared, but they still get it, that you're trying to connect with them, that you're trying to see things from their angle. All right. So you can clarify when you use empathic listening, but only for things that need to be clarified. Like, okay, I didn't quite understand that part about them taking your book. Can you explain that part again? You can clarify those things, but don't jump in, interrupt them, start to make jokes, try to take over, with your own memories. Be very careful of those things. You really want to watch out for those. And again, that's all in the book for you. And instead, just use little prompts to keep them talking, to tell you the story. So I call these tools all open door communication tools, but this is where you would just say things like, wow, really? Oh my gosh. Hmm. You can even just nod your head, but what you're doing is you're saying, tell me more. All right. So be careful that if you respond with certain things like really or yikes, that you're not emotionalizing it, because that can increase their level of fear. All right. So you don't want it to sound like you're questioning them, like you don't believe them, like, really? That's not okay. But just going, oh, really? That's an acknowledgement that they're saying something and you're hearing what they're saying. Okay. And yikes, you don't want to be going, yikes, and adding to the emotion. You're staying perfectly calm and you're just hearing them. Okay, so that's the first part, truly listen. The second thing is to give them reassurance. So when they're done sharing their story, they need to hear that they're okay, that the way they're being treated is the problem. So this is where you might say something like, you understand that there's nothing wrong with you, right? It's the way these kids are acting, it's what these kids are doing that is the real problem here. So you're reassuring them that they've done the right thing by coming to you, that you believe them, that you're there for them. Okay. And then the third thing you do is you encourage inner strength. Now, this is where we tend to derail because we're not used to this part. But here's where we want to be really honest. Your child needs to be told through both your words and your actions that while people picking on them is not okay, they are strong enough, smart enough, and resilient enough to handle it. So this is where you might say something like, "Oh, honey, I know this isn't a great experience for you, but on the bright side, this is an opportunity for you to practice some skills that you're going to probably need throughout your life because there's all kinds of people out there that will try to take advantage, that will want to bring you down a notch, that will want to get in your face. And you'll need skills. So this is an opportunity to practice it. I'm totally willing to help you do that." Okay, so something like that is a way to acknowledge what's going on and to encourage their inner strength. And then finally, the fourth thing is you want to empower and support them. So offer that support and understanding. And this is where you might say something like, "So what are you planning to do now? Would you like my help to brainstorm? Do you want my help coming up with ideas?" There's so many things that you can do to actually support them without taking over. So I'm just going to give you a few key points, and you can get some more from that handout and also from some of the other material on my website, like my Vibrant Powerful Mom show and stuff like that. The first key point is that you truly want to model the behaviors that you want your child to pick up because they learn far more from what you do than what you say. All right. So, that's too bad because we spend time saying things just perfectly and trying to always sound great. But the truth is, what you're doing, how you're treating other people, the stories you're sharing when you come home from work, the stories when you're recounting things that happened at a meeting, that is modeling how you really or what your child is really going to pick up. Is what I'm trying to say there. And you want instead to be modeling those pieces. Okay, this is a moment where I have to backtrack and I'm not going to be able to cut this out. So let me just start that over. What I'm trying to say here is that everything you do, your kids will notice. So watch what you're doing. Notice how you're responding if you're being mistreated. Notice what you're saying when somebody is talking down to you. Notice when you're walking away and shriveling when somebody is being mean to you. Notice those things because that is going to have a much greater influence on them than the things you tell them to do. Okay? And thanks for understanding my little moment there. The next thing is you want to teach them how to stand their ground when someone is putting them down. And this is a big area. I could talk to you about it for a long time. But first of all, this is about assertiveness. So this is about teaching them what assertiveness looks like, what it is, that it's not about getting your way, putting the other person down. It's not about revenge. Assertiveness is about standing up for what you believe in or what you need, standing up for yourself in that moment in a way that helps you feel good about yourself, but without putting the other person down. So when I teach kids how to do this in a classroom, which I don't do now, but I used to do all the time, I would have them pretend to put a crown on their head. And, I would say, if you put your head too far forward, because you're kind of deflating, the crown will fall off. If you put your nose too high because, you're You think you're better than them, the crown will fall off. And so I would teach them to put on their cape, put on their crown, and walk around with that confident strut, because that's part of what assertiveness is. I would teach them about the importance of having their hands open at their side in their pockets and trying not to do the fearful closing off stance or the fists, because fists not only tell the bully that you might be ready to fight, but they also send a message to your brain that you are in danger, and so that you should get ready to fight. So you go into fight or flight mode. You're not as smart. You're stronger, but you're not as smart. And in that moment where you could have talked yourself out of something, instead you end up reacting. So if you're totally unfamiliar with assertiveness, that is like a huge key, a huge place to start for this. I talk about it in both of my books. I have in Standing in Your Power, I talk quite a bit about assertiveness and why we often will switch from assertiveness to aggression, why it's so easy to cross that line. And then in Break Free of Parenting Pressures, I actually talk about how to do the stance. And like I say, I've done lots of podcasts on this. I've done lots of articles on it. So it shouldn't be hard to find information if you need it. And you can also talk to me about it if you want some more information on it. So teaching them about assertiveness isn't just about their body language, it's also about the words that they choose. And so if you have a child that is fairly witty, fairly confident, but just doesn't know what to do in this situation, let's say they're suddenly being teased about their glasses. The first thing you definitely need to know, and so does your child, that it has nothing to do with the glasses. The bully is looking for something that will trigger you, that you're sensitive to. And so it has nothing to do with the glasses. So you could help them to practice using little comebacks like, you know, your opinion is really none of my business, so you don't need to share it with me. Okay, now that, depending on the situation, could end up escalating things, but it's also a way to just sort of say, hey, doesn't matter what your opinion is, right? The whole idea behind this is you're teaching your child not to take things personally, and you also clearly want to tell the bully that, you know what, this isn't a trigger for me. So saying it doesn't make my glasses ugly, right? So another way your child might deal with that, they might say, you know what, that's one person's opinion on them anyway, that kind of thing. Or interesting. I thought the color of the frames really set off my hair. So, so help them to find things that they can say that feel right for them. Don't push them out of their comfort zone into saying things that don't work for them. Make it fit who they are, but also challenge them so that they can practice using that assertive tone, that assertive way to say things. So being assertive is a key piece. Having the language to do this, paying attention to what you're modeling, those are all important pieces. And then there's also some extra things, like maybe they want to take a self-defense class, or maybe they want to learn some martial arts, not so that they can hurt anybody, but so that they can feel more confident about their ability should they ever be in a situation where they need to physically stand up for themselves. You might want to teach them how to avoid certain situations. Avoidance is a really interesting one because there's definitely times where it's worth it to go down a different hallway, to stay out of a bathroom at a certain time because you know the bully's in there. That's fine. But if it's stopping you, say, from going to your hockey tournament because you know the bully will be there, then that's not okay. And so you want to help them learn when it's okay to avoid and when it's not. And right in line with that is knowing when to get help, asking for help when you really truly need it, and go in knowing what you're looking for, because sometimes all you want from that adult is for them to be a sounding board, for you to be able to talk it through with someone and know that, okay, so I'm not crazy here, there is something truly going on. Okay, having positive self-talk is another piece that can help them to feel good about themselves and to deal with the situation more effectively, and importantly, to come away from it not feeling scarred, right? Because it's when you start believing what that bully is saying that you are scarring yourself. You're making it that much harder for you to hold on to your power and to believe in yourself. And then the other piece is sometimes it's very effective to teach them how to be the bigger person, especially when they're dealing with a bully in training. And if you have a child who's fairly confident and now this kid is picking on them just because some other kids were picking on them, chances are that person has lower self-esteem. And if your child's able to, say something like, "You know what? You're funny. I bet we'd get along great if you just gave me a chance." So that kind of talk can really change things, but it can also help your child to start looking at, what are my strengths? What are the great things about me? What are the reasons that people should all love me? Right? Because that's important. If we can tune into this and start to use all situations, even bullying, to help our kids become stronger, we can have a generation that really truly can make a difference. But right now, we're doing things wrong without even meaning to. And by wrong, I mean we're making things worse. We're actually adding to the problem often rather than taking away from it. So, if you enjoyed my videos and the Mother's Day online gift, and if you feel like you might want some of my help for dealing with your child, or even just for standing in your power yourself, maybe with a colleague at work, or maybe in a volunteer position where you're having trouble, or maybe with your hubby, or whatever, feel free to go to my website at www.empoweringenergy.com. That's NRG, stands for Natural Realistic Guidance. And you can sign up there for a complimentary discovery call. Right there on my homepage, there's quite a few different ways that you can get there. And it's totally complimentary. It's an opportunity for you and I to talk, and you get to share what your bugaboo is at the moment, and I can help you try to figure it out if there's something from these videos that you want a little bit more on or not. It can be on anything that is about relationships, about standing in your power, about believing in yourself, about awakening to why you're here. Then go there and sign up for that. It is complimentary. It's available there. I'd like to say all the time, but I don't know how long I will keep that up for, because it really does depend on what I'm doing and how busy I am. Be sure to get your Mother's Day gift online. There's a heart there that says Mother's Day gift. You have to get it before the end of May. The page that it takes you to will be open longer. I'm not sure how much longer, but you will have some time afterwards to get the information that you want if you're not able to get there right away. I also have the Sisterhood for Vibrant, Powerful Moms. I'm always looking for women, for moms who are eager to be the best mom they can be and are willing to push some boundaries and test some um, things that we've been told all along, to push against that a little bit and to create some new ways of parenting using that idea of guiding our kids. And so it's very cutting edge, it's very fun, it's very empowering, and helps you to tune in to your own inner wisdom, which I think is just such an important piece for all of us as moms. So I would love to do more work for you if you feel like the things I share resonate with you. Whatever you decide, I want you really to remember that you are the perfect person to parent your child. And that doesn't mean that you have to be perfect. But it does mean that you want to open yourself up to being the absolute best version of yourself that you can possibly be. Thanks for tuning in to my Mother's Day Marathon. I'm Debbie Pokornik, wishing you a vibrant and powerful day.